Welcome to the PHAROS Fit podcast, where we help you to explore your capacity to move better, push further, and achieve your limitless potential through fitness, nutrition, recovery, and lifestyle. Hey guys, welcome back to the PHAROS Fit podcast. Nice to be back with you guys again. I'm staring across at two very beautiful things right now. It's a green microphone sponge and a pink microphone sponge. It looks like we've really upgraded here, Brandon.
Big time.
We went from the dullness of black to the brightness of green and purple. Behind those microphones are two other beautiful people. I got Mia Parziale. Parziale. And Tyler Manzo. There
you go.
You want to say like that?
We're going there.
We're going there. We are going to talk a little bit about that in a bit, actually, your heritage, where you guys come from. And this podcast today, we're going to go very deeply into the sprint program, which is one of our most popular programs historically at PHAROS Athletic Club. It's going to be a big part of what we do going forward. So Tyler is the creator of the program, and Mia is the Jedi, his new Jedi that he's taking on to help him with that program. So we're going to talk a lot about that, what it is, what it does, who it's for, what the benefits of it are, and how it's going to look moving forward. And I also really want to just introduce these two to you, because I know some of you guys out there are very familiar with them, and some of you guys aren't so much. So I want you guys to know who they are and where they come from and all that kind of stuff. And then we have some nutrition stuff that we're going to go into, and also just some general questions about our place in the fitness industry and what our purpose is going forward as fitness professionals. So Mia, let's start with you. Mia, star of TikTok.
Oh no.
And fitness professional.
That's embarrassing. Okay.
And tell us about yourself. Where do you come from? How did you get into this whole thing? And
Okay, yeah. So growing up, I played sports, and then...
What sports did you play?
I played softball for 7 years. Yeah. So grew up in a sporty house, and then didn't really take fitness and nutrition that seriously until a little later on in life, probably like after college, I'd say. When I moved out to LA about 5 years ago is when I started to get into it. I hired a trainer. I had 2 trainers for a while. Still didn't really know what I was doing. Didn't really know what kind of style of workouts I liked, actually liked. And
you were doing a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, yeah. And then I was training with a group that was more of like a football style boot camp type thing, and that's what I had the most fun doing. And then I found PHAROS and started getting into more weightlifting and things like that, but then found sprint, which reminded me a lot of the football style stuff that I was doing. So then got more into that as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so growing up, you played a lot of sports. Did you have like siblings? Did they play sports? Did they like?
I had a younger brother, but we were like 9 years apart. So it was really just me for the most part growing up.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
And did that go very far, or was it just like recreational? Was it just fun?
Just recreational. Yeah. Fell out of the love of working out for a while, and then got into, college and partied a bit, and then got back into it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Ty, obviously a lot of the guys out there know who you are, but obviously you've been with us since the start pretty much. So why don't you just refresh everyone's memory? So Tyler Manzo, star of OnlyFans, and the sprint coordinator. Let's hear from you. Who are you? Who are you?
Who am I? I go by Ty, I go by Tyler, I go by Manzo, I go by all these other labels. Basically, from the get-go, I grew up in a round. So I was born in California, and then I moved to New Jersey, and then I moved to Colorado later after that, back to New York, and then overall back into California. Grew up playing sports. I was a 3-sport athlete always, usually. I grew up playing baseball, football, and basketball. And then puberty came around, even though Brandon's sitting right next to me, and he's a baller at 5'10". I sprouted up pretty quick. Was good at basketball, and then everybody sprouted up next to me. I'm about, I'm a solid 5'8.5". Thank you. So I stopped playing basketball, and then in high school, I was always quick, so I turned into more of a track athlete as well as football. And why I gave up baseball, even though I didn't enjoy the sport as much, I was okay at it. But my track coach was like, "Listen, this is going to be a better turnover from track and field into football." So I was a recruited athlete for football as well as track, and I ended up getting a couple injuries. Everybody that's played football probably has had a couple injuries, had a concussion, then had a shoulder surgery. Ended up taking track and field a little bit more seriously because of it and my size. I was in USA Juniors track and field over in Colorado, and then ended up playing. Ended up getting recruited for track and field, small school, Metro State in Denver. Shout out Metro State. And ran track a couple of years, and then just really didn't take it seriously anymore because wasn't going to the Olympics. And college took about. Got into from there. It was sophomore year, so I had a semester that felt like a lifetime of out of sports. And I got into. I started in hospitality management. I was working with a company that I ran into a guy who looked like Thor, this guy Grayson. And he was doing CrossFit. And I was like, yo, what are you doing? Because and this is back in the day, right? So this guy's only eating bacon and steak. And I'm like, and you look like Thor. I was like, I got to try this thing called CrossFit. And I got into CrossFit. And he's like, you're all right at it. So like become a coach, did the whole thing. Moved over to New York, did coaching. Moved over to LA, did coaching. I met your wife, Emily, and she was starting this gym, PHAROS, and lo and behold, I mean, long story short, that's it. That's Tyler Manzo in a nutshell.
And from both of you, I'm kind of detecting like this kind of like this love. I mean, Tyler, you played football fairly extensively. Mia, you mentioned like you were doing that kind of training before you came to PHAROS. Mm-hmm. And I think the evolution of that into sprint is pretty tight, right? You'd say it's a fairly similar thing. So anybody that has like played football in the past or has that kind of a background is going to enjoy that kind of training because it's familiar, it's effective. I think certainly anybody that I know that's done it, also from the UK, like anybody that has a rugby background or a soccer background, that kind of training comes, very, very easily to them, but also something that has such a strong relationship to the way that they grew up.
Definitely.
I think it has a huge benefit just physically and mentally for those people. So that kind of leads us naturally into the sprint program. So, my pen. Let's talk a little bit about what sprint is, who it's for, what it does, and that kind of thing. And then Tyler, why don't you start with it because you basically developed the program, and then we'll ask Mira some other questions.
Sprint. I was coming off of training with preseason NFL guys, and we were doing a lot of basic stuff. We were doing a lot of strength and conditioning, right? Getting them prepared for minicamp. Not a whole lot of what we do, I would say, in sprint. And it kind of dawned on me there where I was like, it's interesting, like you said, people that go through high school, especially we have a lot of people that go through middle school, high school with sports. From a society thing to just a cultural thing, as well as they enjoy it and they're good at it. And then college comes around and we hit a certain age, and we always hear this story like I used to be this high school athlete and the golden days, right, or the glory days. Shout out Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. And it evolved from there because I was like, there's no reason why we have to necessarily stop. If we can design a program that is not necessarily as extensive and impactful on, let's say, the body as a practice would, but you're going to get a full hour of a lot of movement and body weight movement from an agility as well as cardiovascular standpoint. We have these runners. We have these techno gym runners. Anybody who's been here in PHAROS, and they're great. They turn into a sled push. They're amazing to run on. They're low impact treadmills. And then there's box jumps and hurdles and all this stuff. So I was like, how can we design something that caters to all? You don't have to necessarily play a sport, but also caters to the people that did play a sport.
Yeah.
And it went from there really. And it was definitely a learn by I go kind of programming sense. What I can do, what I can't do. A lot of people I think of sports and they're like, oh, I can't even go play kickball without getting injured. And I'm not saying this from, a gloating standpoint, but no one's really ever gotten hurt in sprint. It's pretty low impact. You're going to be running a lot. You're going to be sprinting a lot. You're going to be moving side to side. But there's no reason why you can't necessarily go from high school, college right into it, or take some time off and go from there as well. I think we all have this internal athlete, quote unquote, inside of us that sprint just kind of fires up.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's like when I look at sprint as a program, and obviously when I've taken sprint, I think there's no better conditioning tool on earth than just sprints, like interval sprints.
Absolutely.
And it takes it down to its bare bones, and we do some circuit stuff, obviously, but when we're just saying, whether it's 100-meter sprints, 200-meter sprints, 300-meter sprints, 400-meter sprints, whatever it is, just that basic tough conditioning of you against the clock on the treadmill, that there is. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to trick it. You can't trick it. You can't game it. You either run that fast or you don't. And that's simple. It's so simple and it's so effective and it's so natural. It's such a natural thing for us to do that I think people just kind of fall in love with it pretty quickly. And Mia, I know because you were a fan before you were a coach, obviously.
Right.
And I think you were pretty much taking sprint from the beginning, and then you continued to take it over the years. And now, of course, you're coaching it.
Yeah.
So tell us about that journey. What appealed to sprint? What about sprint appealed to you, and why did you love it so much?
Yeah. So I'm going to start off by saying that I'm not a runner. I was never a runner. I never enjoyed running. It was not my thing, but I'm very competitive. So I know a lot of people, when they hear sprint, they're like, oh no, I can't. I don't want to just sprint. And it's that's not what the whole class is. It's there's so much to it. There's so many different aspects of it that you can compete with your, classmates, whatever. And it's fun. And that's what I really liked about it, was that it's kind of you're not just in your own head. You're with a group. They're all very, very supportive. And it's just a fun way to do stuff that you may not want to do sometimes.
Right.
But I have become such a better athlete in general, even when it comes to when I do weightlifting and things like that, because I'm building my endurance through this class. And, when I started doing the football camp, it was more for, I wanted to lose weight. That was my main goal. And it was the most effective thing that I had done, adding weights as well. But it was a matter of taking things that I wasn't very good at, but enjoying the people that I was with, and it became a team effort and got results from it. And it was just a full package deal. And
what I found was I don't think anybody had taught me how to sprint properly until I taken Tyler's class. Did you have that as well?
Yeah, there were definitely I definitely needed critiquing for sure. I learned a lot from taking it from Tyler.
And I think that does kind of because you can go to other gyms where it's you just oh, you're going to do this and then you're going to run the treadmill for X amount of time, then you can do that. But they don't really take the time to say, well, this is how you run. This is how we sprint. This is what you need to be doing to improve your time. It's a technical thing. And all of our programs here, I think if we can emphasize that technical ability in the beginning, then the conditioning part of it becomes a lot more rewarding, because not only are you working hard, but you're also working hard in the right way, which I think is what a lot of people do wrong. That's one of the big things that I really love about this program, and what Tyler did with it from the beginning was he really took the time to think about well, how do we get people better at running, and then how do we get them to run in different ways over the course of weeks and months and years and so forth. Because like I said, guys, we do a lot of different distances, mainly sprint is shorter distances, obviously. Absolutely. Because of the nature of it. What's the shortest distance you'll do?
60.
60 meters, yeah.
60, yeah.
We're doing it in meters because we got meters on the treadmill. 60 meters, 80 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters, 150 meters, all that kind of stuff.
150s, mid-distance, 300s, which is not, a traditional track and field, all the way up. The most you'll ever run, anybody out there that's scared of running, the most you'll ever run is an 800 at a time.
Yeah.
Which anybody that runs an 800, it's not very fun.
It's not very fun. It's hard. But again, it's a very... I find it a very, almost like mentally challenging, but also it has such a clarity to it because like it's a set distance, it's a set time, and you're not confused by anything else. And I think the relationship that people have with sprint is very similar to that relationship people have with CrossFit in the beginning, because it was like you were saying, releases their inner athlete. So it is like that kind of like that sensation of being an athlete that comes out. But what I love about sprint is it's not diluted by anything else. You can't, like I said, you can't game it. You can't like practice your way around it. You either do it or you don't. And that kind of like go stop, you know,
and I think that is, you know, and like we can, you know, go in depth. It's not just running to a certain extent. Like you will pick up, you'll be doing box jumps, you'll be doing ladder drills, you'll be doing hurdle drills, you'll be doing loaded jumps. We work a lot on core, but what's interesting about it is that I think the competitive nature that Mia was talking about is that you're not under load. So when you're doing a back squat, you know, a lot of people were like, well, there's a certain amount of finite reps that you have, let's say underneath a 100-pound back squat for person to person. Now, it's just you against you because it's all body weight. So either there's this weird thing that happens with people that take sprint that they come in and there's no reason for you to stop because there's no limit with weight, right? And when they realize that, they start to have this inner competitive nature with themselves because there is no real, it's all mental at that point.
Yeah.
Yes, there's definitely a physical ability. There's VO2 maxes, there's cardio conditioning, 100% and muscular endurance. But with sprint being no weight, it really plays with the internal clock inside of your brain.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I think we can all agree like sprint is basically a HIIT program, right? It's a high intensity training program. Mm-hmm. As coaches, with your clients, do you find yourself, you know, gearing more towards that kind of programming or more towards list programming, like a lower intensity, steady state kind of cardio, or do you find both come in? Or, I mean, obviously you're penchant and your passion is for this kind of training.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you also, I mean, you got your knee thing right now, but you usually run a fair bit long distance. And so
yeah,
forth.
I do. Well, no, I would say not long. I would say I cap usually at like a 5K.
Yeah.
I think God bless you if you run past that. Yeah, I think that sprinting in general, from a coach's perspective of like, you know, coaching clients or anything like that outside of this, I'm always looking for the stimulus that we're necessarily not touching as much, right? So with sprinting, it's a giant stimulus.
Yeah.
And you can only, you know, and you progress. So it's always a continuous stimulus, and it's a pretty fast stimulus. You can get pretty quick. Pretty quick. Yeah, pretty quickly. So you're always continuously kind of excelling yourself.
Yeah, and it's a very trackable progress, right? Because
Absolutely.
It's a set distance, it's a set time. You can see yourself getting better quickly. And although we talked about you bringing in the technical aspect of it, it's a low technical demand. As in, you're not trying to learn how to do a muscle up. You're not trying to learn how to do a double under.
Yeah,
you either
absolutely.
run it or you don't.
And you'd be surprised. A lot of people that, you know, I'll see in class, they'll come up and be like, "Listen, I'm not an athlete," and I have fun with this class because it is like track practice or PE class, or like Mia was saying, the camaraderie and everything. And at the end of those classes, I'm like, you are. Like you just didn't know it. And because I think we're born to run.
Yeah.
Another Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep on going with these.
Yeah.
And we have modifications and stuff too. So a lot of people that come in who see everyone who's been taking the class forever, they get, you know, intimidated or might get intimidated. But there are so many modifications that you can do that makes it, you know, doable for everyone.
Yeah.
And how do you kind of get the best out of people in this situation, in this sprint class? How have you found you really like connect with people and let, because I think you're right. I think there's always a certain amount of inhibition when it goes into this kind of thing. How do you get past that wall of inhibition and allow people to just kind of let themselves go a bit?
Looking at me.
Yeah.
I think the best way to describe it is that we've all been there.
Yeah.
Like they look at coaches, me, a strong girl, and you're looking at somebody, you're trying to coach somebody, and they kind of look at you like, well, it's easier for you to say, like, you deadlift 300 pounds. And yeah, definitely. We're a little bit stronger, a little bit, and we're coaching people, but we all know how bad a 60 meter, 100 meter sprint feels, or 200 meter repeats. Mm-hmm. We've all been there. Like, it's not easier for me because it is max effort. It is hit. It's as hard as you can go. We do 75%, 80%. There's more technicality to it, but I've been there with you. I know what it feels like. It's the exact same feeling you're feeling right now. I've felt as well.
Yeah, it's empathy, right? It's saying, like, I know how this feels. I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying, you weren't a sprinter. You weren't a runner.
No.
Like, you taught yourself how to do this in a relatively short amount of time. Mm-hmm. Like 5 years ago, no way you could do the shit you could do now, right?
Absolutely not.
And now now you are who you are. And that's always the great thing about when you see coaches coming through and when you see people making progress. I always think, God, I wish I'd recorded their first ever session in the gym and then played it back to them like 5 years later, because it's so fascinating. Like I always say about the story that people tell themselves. People tell themselves the story, well, I'm not an athlete and I can't do that. Well, I want to sit them down at the beginning and say, okay, I want you to say this sentence, I'm not an athlete, I can't do that. And I'm going to record your session, and then in a year's time, 2 years' time, we're going to play it back. I'm going to tell you what you told me, and then we're going to review, because it's fascinating how quickly people progress and how the way that they view themselves changes over the course of time. It's always a fascinating thing for me. So moving forward, Ty, obviously you developed a sprint program. We were going so strong before quarantine. Mm-hmm. Classes were packed. And then people have taken some time out, although we've been doing obviously the virtual, and we've been doing outside, which was kind of a transition we were forced into, but getting people outside and sprinting has its own benefits as well. But moving forward from this point, like, how do you see the sprint program kind of developing over the last year? Is there anything that you want to do differently that you did before, or you just want to keep making progress from where you were, or how do you see it panning out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that every single time we're talking about this, every single sentence, I'm picturing, we started out with the main gym, right? And that's where sprint started. And the treadmills were down there. So I'm just getting flashbacks of how it started, or how, you know what I mean? Yeah. And where we've gone, and then it was outside, back to inside, and all this stuff. And right before the quarantine, like you said, classes were packed. I had to modify the actual program in itself. It used to be, I would say, it always has a strength program and involved with a conditioning as well as set amount of sprints, vice versa. Now, being that it is a class and being that there's a lot of popularity to it and the people in it, it becomes more of a, I don't want to say party, but it was. You know what I mean?
It was a sprint party.
It was a sprint party. And it was fun. And that's where I want to get it back to. I like, I see so many new faces inside PHAROS, and I want them to get inside a sprint and see what it's all about, and continue to have this kind of, we're going to be running, we're going to be jumping, we're going to get on the treadmill, we're going to do that, but in an environment that is not only fun with the camaraderie, everybody's going hard, but with the technicality of actually people working hard and moving well.
Yeah. And I think almost this situation we're in right now has its benefits in that, we can't have the same amount of people in the class that we had before, mm-hmm. just from a social distancing standpoint. But what that allows us to do is obviously pay more attention to less people. And it makes programming a little more simplified, right? Because now we can, focus more on specific sprints at specific times, and it is a more manageable situation. So although at a certain point, the party is limited, the access to the party is limited, maybe the party's a little better.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's hope so. So both of you guys, you're pretty kind of lean all year round. Your weight doesn't fluctuate that much. You're doing this sprint training, and you're doing your other training as well. I mean, we'll talk about your other stuff because I know you do a lot of other things as well. How do you plan your nutrition around the work that you do? Because you both do a lot of like high intensity work. You both do a lot of weight training, but you both stay, pretty lean year round. And I'm just curious to know like what what your take on nutrition is and how you guys kind of manage that whole side of things. Mia, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So I use MyFitnessPal, and I count my calories, and I try to hit my macronutrients, and it fluctuates, and I cheat on it literally all the time, but I try to stay around that. And then on days that I like lift heavy, I'll add more carbs, and I try to kind of eat around that. If I'm not doing anything for the day, I'll have like less carbs, but generally just that's base.
That's a great point, and that's something that I kind of want to emphasize, and kind of why I asked you, because a lot of people like ask me about nutrition and diet, and what you said there about carbohydrate intake is one of the key elements, obviously, and it is kind of that thing of like, the more work that you do, the more lifting that you do, the more high intensity work that you do, it is likely that the more carbohydrates you will need. So people often get hung up on carbs and how much they should be having, and the basic point that you just made is like, on the days where I do more, I eat more carbohydrates.
Yeah.
On the days where I do less,
I used to be terrified of carbs.
Yes.
I used to
and a lot of people are.
Oh my God, I've tried so many different diets. I have a very hard time with food. I still do. But like growing up, I just really struggled with it. I, as a kid, junk food all the time, like was going fast food all the time. Then college drinking all the time, whatever it was. But now
you can be honest on this. You can 100% word. Honesty's right here.
So, but I've just found for what like works best for me is to actually have the carbs. Like I'm not so scared of it anymore. I have a much healthier relationship with food now because of that.
And do you kind of like plan those carbs around your training, in the meals around your training, or does it not really matter to you?
I mean, my days are kind of all over the place based on, clients and this, that, and the other thing. So, like I said, I mean, it depends, but I usually have like a lighter breakfast, because I was doing intermittent fasting for a while, but now I'm just having a lighter breakfast. And, I do eat my sweet potatoes at night and stuff like that, but I should have probably more around lunch because I train around lunch.
I think the point is like, carbs aren't good and they're not bad, but they have a purpose. And as long as you understand what that purpose is and what they do and what they're for, then it allows the consuming carbs to be a lot more freeing on your mind. It's like, I understand what this is doing. It's fueling this. It's helping recover from this. It's serving this purpose. And once I understand that, it becomes a much more, manageable thing.
It's fuel.
It's a fuel.
Yeah, it's fuel.
And a lot of people just get so... because this person says I should eat carbs, this person says I shouldn't eat carbs, I don't know what to do, but it's all about like your relationship to it. And once you understand what it does, what it's doing for you, and how you can use it, I think it's a lot more freeing. Because for me, and Tyler will come on to you in a second, but for me, it's like my proteins and my fats always stay, pretty similar at this point.
Yeah.
It's only the carbs that really fluctuate. Now I've noticed like, if I go up to like 400 grams of carbs a day, I tend to gain fat a lot, but if I stay around like the 280 to 320 mark, I can stay pretty lean. And it really is kind of like you were saying, like just understanding that on the big days, on the heavy days, and I'm doing a ton of work, I can take more in, and on days when I'm not doing so much, I can take in less. Especially when I'm 40, almost 43, it's like I really notice these days, like I have to be right on it with the carb intake if I care about my body fat percentage. And not everybody does to a point, but if it is something that frustrates you and it's like I don't understand, I think a lot of people can just look at their carb intake and just think, okay, what am I really doing? What do I need to really eat for, and what do I need to recover from? And then it becomes a lot more.
Yeah, I always give my clients, I tell them to track for just a week and be like really good about tracking, not so that way they become obsessive with it. It's just more of like see what kind of carbs you're taking and see what protein and everything else, and then you can kind of tweak it from there. But if you don't know, like you're starting with nothing. So
and everyone has such a different relationship to it. Like everyone responds to carbs in a different way. Some people just look at a carb and they seem to gain weight. Other people can eat all the carbs in the world and they never gain any body fat. So it is a unique relationship. Your relationship to food is unique. Ty, and you're pretty much like me. Like you've tried every fucking diet under the sun. We've experimented a lot with our own bodies.
Yeah.
Where are you now? What are you up to?
I mean, like, I think just like you just said, I mean, I'm definitely the guy that if I do eat a lot of carbohydrates, I do gain body fat. And I don't know, intuitively or bro science or whatever you want to call it, when I was a kid, I ate a lot of sugar, like a lot of sugar. So my body maybe developed a little bit differently. Not necessarily saying these are, like harsh words, but insulin resistance, like it's your body's just ability to carry insulin. So carbohydrates, for anyone that's listening, like when you eat carbs, your insulin rises, right? So if a guy like me, I eat a lot of carbs, I gain a lot of body fat. I don't know if that has a direct relationship. I also eat a lot of fat. So, a recipe for disaster is high carb, high fat, right?
Right.
I think being that I do a lot of intensity with cardio and then a lot of heavy lifting, I don't do your traditional lighter reps, heavy sets, kind of like bodybuilding style. I'm always heavy, sprint. Yeah. So you would think that I eat a lot of carbs, but I don't necessarily do. And that's just me. You know what I mean?
But you eat enough. What I found is you kind of often need less carbs than you think.
Yes.
I know a lot of people. For the longest time, I was only having like 100 grams carbs a day, 150 grams carbs a day, and I was kind of fine on that. Now, if I want to put on mass,
absolutely,
I need to add more. But it is like people need less carbs than I think, and I think less carbs than traditional books will tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the way I do eat carbs is around pure activity. Yeah. If I'm gonna be running, if I'm gonna be sprinting or do my box jump or my agility training, to be completely 100% honest, at the table, like I'll take a sugar packet, the raw sugar packets downstairs, and I'll just like down one with a little bit of water because I know it's like fast glycolytic, energy. I'm gonna use it and all of it probably, and then kind of go from there.
And perform better.
And I perform better. I mean, I've tried everything. When I was, you and I both were right around the same time when we were low carb, when we were like sub, probably what we were like sub 75, sub 50.
If that some days, honestly.
It got weird. It got when I would do sprinting or anything like activity, you get lightheaded, you start to get a little bit of hypoglycemia, you start to feel a little weird. So you need them. I'm not an all or nothing kind of guy. But I think, like you were saying, is the relationship of carbohydrates per person is totally different.
I think that's hard for people because people want an answer. People are like, well, how many should I have? And it's like, honestly, I can't tell you. Like, I can give you a ballpark. I can give you like where you should start. And then it really is just figuring it out for yourself.
Like, I know guys who stay at 7% that eat donuts.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I you know what I mean? And God bless you.
Yeah. I mean, especially like ectomorphs, right? Like, a couple of guys downstairs right now that I know who you're thinking about. That they grew up as ectomorphs. They were naturally like thin guys. And they probably have to eat that sugar, that glycogen to even like hold the muscle that they want to put on. And they don't gain fat. It's just one of like, one of those things that we all get like.
But I just want to say we could both outlift them. I'm just
totally good. So you are Italian in heritage, right?
Yeah, Italian and German.
Italian, German, and obviously Italian you are.
Yep.
And obviously that heritage comes with a love of pasta, pizza,
food.
Yep.
We eat.
Yep.
And you both said you allow yourselves cheat meals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
How does that fit into are you just kind of like whenever the fuck I feel like it, or are you like, do you plan it out, or are you like, when does it really go down time? When is that pizza just like come knocking?
I mean, for me, I try to be really good about my diet during the week. So that way, like on the weekend and I go out with my friends, I don't feel guilty because there was a time period in my life that I would avoid social interactions and stuff like that because I knew that food was going to be around and I
Right.
couldn't control myself. So during the week, I really try to keep it together, and then I'll let myself. But that doesn't mean I don't cheat during the week. It's just
less of a cheat.
Less of a cheat, yeah. So like even today, I knew I wasn't going to be able to eat for a long period of time. I had a maple scone this morning for breakfast.
Right.
I normally wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. No, and I think that's important because I think a lot of people, what I see a lot of the time is that they make one mistake and that then sends them on a spiral, and they think, oh my God, now that I fucked up, I might as well keep fucking up. Whereas like just taking the thing for what it is in the moment, it's like, well, I had that thing and so fucking what?
Yeah,
now I'm going to
exactly.
now I'm going to work out and I'm going to get back on my routine and everything's going to be fine. The problem is always when it starts a bad cycle. It starts like a bad habit and they can't get out of that.
Yeah, and it's hard to come back from that as well. Like I just had a week of a cheat meal basically for my birthday, and then coming back was hard, and like, you know, it's a mental struggle as well, but it's like, all right, that happened, now back. I'm going to use all of that stuff that I just ate to power myself through the next week of workouts.
It's kind of fascinating as well because like you say you felt terrible. Like all food is a drug. Basically, it all has like an effect, a chemical effect on our bodies. And people don't think about food in that way. They think about, oh, I feel bad because of some external factor. It's like, no, you feel bad because you just ate shit for a week. That's why you feel bad.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, well, I should take something because I want to make myself feel better. It's like, if you just stopped eating shit, you'd probably feel better.
Yeah.
So people have to be almost reminded, like, everything you consume is a chemical, and your body is reacting to those chemicals.
And not just for your body, but
way.
for your brain.
your brain,
like my
100%.
mental health depends on it as well.
Oh,
from
100%.
working on eating right.
Yeah.
And you're going to be okay. Like a lot of the people, when they go, let's say on a food bender or whatever you want to call it, like you do feel like shit and you're bloated and all this stuff. And I'm telling you right now, like if you stop in your tracks and you just start eating like, okay, you know what I mean? And you start eating a little bit better and then you're fine. It's water bloat is huge on people's like mental capacities. So like when I have, when I have pizza or pasta or anything like that, like, yeah, I'm not going to feel great. I'm not going to look great the next day. But like 5 days from there, when all that water goes down, like I'm fine. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't need to, because then you'll get into this habitual nature of being like, yo, I have this, and then I go down, and then you're on a roller coaster ride and your body doesn't know what to do. So it's like, it's okay to eat. That what I'm basically saying is it's okay to eat pasta, guys. I have it before workouts.
So we kind of discussed this a little bit, that sprint is a high intensity program. It falls in that kind of power endurance category. A lot of people at PHAROS, obviously, they have this kind of multiplicity in their programming. They're doing lots of different programming. How should sprint fit into their other sessions? Like how many sessions of sprint should you be doing a week, and how does it fit in with your other programming?
I think it depends on your goals, like your body goals and things like that.
Let me put it a different way. Like, how many times a week can a body handle sprint? Or do you think, I mean, it's still different for different people, right? But like at a certain point, it's kind of the same way that I talk about CrossFit. If you do like Metcon after Metcon after Metcon every day, your body will break down and you will stop getting any kind of benefit from it. Like, what would you say in terms of sprint? How many sprints a week should a person be doing? Could they handle?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a person-to-person thing, but I think beginners, I like to start you out on like 2 days. The things that you're going to start to feel is tightness through the calves, through the Achilles,
hip flexors,
exactly. Any kind of joint access mark, like that is all lower half, you're going to feel, and a little bit of tightness. So I usually start people on 2 days a week, but going forward off of that, sprint is so low impact from a weight bearing perspective that you can technically do this, I wouldn't say, 4 or 5 times a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, me and one of my clients, we were talking about it, saying like we're on this high performance hypertrophy program, but we want to get back into sprint, and we were saying for us like doing sprint twice a week would be a really good complement to the other work that we do. I think any more than that, and it would start to like be too much stress on my old body, my old bones. But yeah, I certainly found for me, it's making that choice between when you look at that kind of power endurance category and you think about sprint, you think about compete, all that CrossFit type stuff, and I think about boxing and stuff, like how many of those kind of really fit in to track from everything that I'm trying to do. And like I find like 2, maybe 3 times a week is the most that my body can handle before I stop seeing like the benefit, and I just kind of feel run down. So I think if you guys are out there listening, like if you're doing other programs, if you're doing like the build, or you're doing the hybrid, or you're doing compete, or you're doing lift, you know, I think finding time to slot in sprint like at least twice a week, you know, you're gonna see some real benefits there. And I think especially for other programs like compete, where, you know, we all know what CrossFit is and what the benefits of it are. But like I said before, when it comes down to pure conditioning, if you're just thinking about how fit in exclamation marks you are, there is nothing better than sprint. Yeah. So if you want to improve your conditioning, get better at sprint.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You'd be surprised too. Like I have a lot of people coming into sprint that they're like, wow, you know, I haven't deadlifted, let's say a hinge movement, especially deadlift or squat. And they're like, I PR'd. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the amount of muscle engagement in a sprint is, from studies I've seen, that it's more than a deadlift and a squat.
Well,
from a max effort.
Also central nervous system.
Exactly,
right?
from a CNS perspective, exactly.
It's lining up those motor units.
And so from, you could probably take this one, Mia, but from a female perspective, a lot of females, how do I put this correctly, guys? Like a bigger butt, correct?
Correct.
And from a pure biological thing, sprinting somehow, some way gives you a big butt.
Yeah. You look at sprinters in the Olympics.
Exactly.
A lot of good butts.
A lot of good butts out there on the Olympic, that 100-meter dash track.
Yeah.
So
a lot of good physiques in general.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a good point, and I wanted to kind of delve into this. Like as a woman, and this has become a very popular program for women. Mm-hmm. What do you think the appeal is for women in this program?
I mean, well, it depends again, like what your goals are and stuff like that. But like for me, my goal coming in was to, I hate saying tone up, but like lean muscle and everything else, you know. Yeah. And for me, that was adding sprint was what kind of did that. So like, you know, I got a smaller waist, a bigger butt, my, you know, legs got thicker, and like that's what I was going in for. So, and that is like what a lot of women kind of are looking for as far as aesthetically. And I think that, that's...
I never thought the class was going to go that way. I was like,
it's a lot of women.
It's a lot of girls. Yeah. I would say it's a majority of females over males. Yeah. Especially on the more, bigger time slots. And because when I first did this, I was like, well, this is going to be fun. It's going to be like a locker room. All the guys are going to show up that used to play football or track or sports, and they're just going to talk. And then all of a sudden, I was looking around class. I was like, there's 2 guys in here and 10 females. I'm like, all right, this is
girls
the way
are very competitive too.
Oh yeah.
So it's
absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd say also.
Yeah.
And I just love that. I always call it like anabolic nature. It's the anabolic nature of sprint. You just feel so charged after it, like as opposed to like, you know, the catabolic effect of like going for a 20k run and you just feel kind of like, obviously you have some endorphins that release, but you feel kind of like broken afterwards. Whereas sprint, you just feel charged up.
You feel good. Yeah, it's just everybody that takes the classes. The sprint high is real, people. The really sprint high is real.
Yeah. I have a big question I'm going to ask you guys in a second, but before we get into that, fitness is important to both of you guys. Obviously, it's been a big part of your lives, especially recently. How did quarantine affect you? Did it like leave you kind of jaded about fitness, or did it leave you even more like determined about fitness? Was it like, when I get back out of quarantine, I'm going to fucking dominate the fitness world? Or was it like, you know, kind of like...
I wanted it so badly. It was, for me at this point, at that point, it was more of a mental thing. It was more for my mental health, that I needed fitness. I was ready to get back into the gym as soon as I could. I really tried to keep up with all of like the, you know, online workouts and stuff like that, but I did run myself down I was doing,
you were doing too much.
I was doing too much because I had now all the time in the
much free
world. I
time.
wasn't working. And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is great. I could do like 3 classes in a day
Right.
and then go for a hike and do all this stuff. And I did. And then I ended up injuring myself, not even from that. I was sprinting on gravel and fell and busted my knee open. So I was forced to take time off. And then like in that week, I was like, wow, okay. I like need to work out. Like I just like don't feel good physically, mentally, and everything else. But yeah, so I was like ready to come back as soon as possible for my mental health.
Yeah. How about you, Ty?
I mean, where do I want to take this? From a quarantine perspective, everything fitness wise, I was, I'm in your boat. Like this is probably a different podcast, but I think everything that happened, from a pandemic standpoint, I was like, not yes, finally, but I was like, okay, there's a lot of undermarking things that from a health perspective that we're missing. And I'm like, wow, people are going to start to take fitness seriously, their diet seriously, health seriously. And there was just going to be this health renaissance. And I was like, yo, when we're out of this, it's going to be, and we're still getting out of it. Right. And that could happen.
Right. I mean, we hope so. I mean, we have talked about this and we just hope that obviously people learn something from this. Like we know who have been the most effective, who have been at the most risk, and we know that we can do something about it. And we just hope that it's not like, okay, got the vaccine, gonna go back to my life.
We're here to help.
Yeah,
that's our job.
Yeah,
and we're coming here with open arms, and I just felt like there was gonna be this push towards health, and like you just said, I hope there still is. That's all.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, like obviously we care a lot about what we do. It kind of like strengthened our purpose, what we're trying to do here. And as hard as challenging as it has been, it really I think has put health and fitness back on the map as a tool for human survival. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're all fucking going to peril. That's it. So we really hope that is the case, and it's not just the case of like, oh, I got my vaccine, I'm going to go back to the same life I was living, make the same mistakes, all that stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're somewhat of a social media starlet on TikTok.
Okay.
How do you? It's a minefield, and again, Tyler, we talked about this. Mm. Is it good or is it bad?
Oh, geez.
Because as a fitness business and as a fitness professional, it's become necessary. Mm-hmm. But how is your relationship with it? Do you like it? Do you kind of hate it?
I have a love-hate relationship with it. As a creator, I will say...
Because your TikTok's good. I enjoy it. It's fun to watch.
Oh, this is embarrassing. I'm going to blush. Okay. So basically it was a great outlet for me personally during the quarantine and everything else. It was a big push, like my mental health, like I said, was, a little rocky, and it really helped me get through it because it was a constant stream of like me just laughing at things and like, having an outlet to be creative and do something. And then, people picked up on it and started liking it. So then then it became like a community thing. So in that aspect, I think that it's really good. It opens your eyes to a community that you may not know was there, that you can relate to. It brings people together. So in that aspect, it's great. But then it is also a like time suck, and you get too into it. Like I try to post every day, and that gets tiring. And it's like sometimes I don't want to look at my phone anymore, and like so there's that. And I get a lot of backlash as well.
I was gonna say, do you get a lot of weirdos?
Oh my God, do I ever? Right. Yes. Yeah, I try not to look at my DMs a lot of the time. I get some fun stuff on there, but also a lot of comments and stuff from certain people that are very negative. Or
is that from women or from men? Or
from men?
Oh, really?
Never women.
Really?
It's always men.
And men are saying negative things about you?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so fucking up.
Yeah. People love to mansplain.
What? Say that again?
Mansplain.
What's that?
when there's like something like someone to like I posted something about like rest days, right? And I was like, man, like do I take a rest day? Do I not take a rest day? There's like this whole thing, and some guy was like, well, you should take rest days because da 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 da, but basically was like explaining to me like why rest days were beneficial, as if I was like like I was dumb and like didn't know. Like obviously I know rest days are beneficial, but it's just like stuff like
that's
that.
Mansplaining.
Yeah.
We need a new dictionary now, don't we?
Yeah,
I mean, at this point,
I don't really even know what TikTok. The only reason I know what TikTok is because you have TikTok.
Right. Yeah.
So terrible. Tyler, you hate it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's terrible.
Okay, Brandon, do you have a clock? A timer?
Yes, we do.
I'm going to time on something.
Ready?
Hang on.
Are we competing?
Oh no.
No, you're not competing.
Oh, darn.
Actually, you need to write this down. So we're going to set the clock for 1 minute. Okay. I'm going to ask you what your purpose is, but you don't have to write down a whole paragraph. You just think of 3 words that fit into your purpose in a minute. Yeah. So I did this earlier, and I'll just give you an example. I wrote down protect, build, and understand. That were my 3 things. Now, obviously, you can go all kinds of direction with those 3 points. But what are 3 things that come to mind? What are the first 3 things that come to mind when somebody asks you what your purpose is? You ready with the clock, Brandon? Mm-hmm. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
You're making me nervous.
You can write that if you want.
I don't want to use the same ones you. What did you just use? I don't want to use those ones.
I did protect, build, and understand.
Okay, yeah. No.
Looks thick, guys. The tension is building.
Whatever first comes to mind.
I really don't know.
Think too much.
There is no wrong answer, obviously. When we put this out, we'll put like a lift music.
Absolutely. Give 20 seconds, Mia.
All right, I
Some
can't.
soft
I don't know
rock or
what my
something.
reactions.
Do we have to write it
Put me
down?
on the spot.
I got it in my head.
I didn't write
Mia
it.
wrote down one thing and scribbled it out.
For a fact.
It's mansplaining.
Oh, that was my first one.
It's
I
mansplaining.
literally wrote it there.
Mansplaining is the first one.
Yeah.
We'll get a full dictionary for new language of the internet.
That's right. And time, everybody. Okay, Mia.
No.
What is
him
your
first.
Tyler?
That's fair.
What is your purpose?
Teach, humble, and observe. That's what I wrote down. Teaching wise, like I'm always, trying to be an open book when it comes down to understanding anything about anything. And from a fitness perspective, I continuously learn. I think the moment you stop learning, you waste a very big portion of your brain, your life, or anything like that. Like we're such sponges, and there's always something to learn about something. And then humble is my second. That definitely appeals to the first one. Is when you do have that knowledge, be humble about it. Don't talk down to people. Teach people, understand them, where they're coming from. Try to make them feel like they want to learn as well. I think we stop learning at a certain point. We go through school, and then we end school, and then we're done.
I think that's a really good point, because I think there's a big trend now, like people like learn something and then they think it's their responsibility to throw it down everyone's throat.
Absolutely.
Like you have to think this because this is what I learned and this is what I know. It's like,
Exactly. And
dude,
it's because we're in the age of information, right? We never our parents didn't have growing up Google or anything like that. People can be Google or internet professors, and they'll just figure something out, and they're like, well, I heard this and this, and this is fact. It's like, be humble about it, guys. Like, that's why observe is my last one, because it's observe everybody, like be objective, like hear their opinions, understand where they're maybe coming from. You just got to take a step back to do that a little bit. I think everybody's so focused on themselves that they don't get a time to take a breath, stop where they are. It's like when the best way to describe it always to a lot of people is like, I feel like we're on a one big like long road trip, and we're in the driver's seat, so we don't really necessarily unless you're me, get a look around, and my beautiful fiance is like, Tyler, watch the road because there's a semi coming right after me while I'm looking around. And but you don't get to. So just take a second, stop, observe what we're all doing, because we're all in this together, guys.
Yeah, that's good points. Yeah.
Okay, well, I had written down teach, so that was my first one. Thanks very much. But yeah, no, just go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I was going to say, because we should talk about this, because you also do a lot of Pilates, right?
Yeah,
you do a lot of
I'm a
teaching
Pilates
and-
instructor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the reformer style Pilates.
Yeah, reformer, mat. There's so many different pieces of equipment you can use, but yeah. So I do that as well. So for me, like what I find super rewarding is being able to teach someone what they're capable of doing when they don't think that they're capable of doing it. I get almost like a high from it when I see the spark in someone's like eye, like, oh, like, okay, I can do this, and like it gets some sort of satisfaction for themselves of how to do things. And like that's where my fire kind of comes from, which kind of goes into my second word, which is like community. For me, growing up, I've always kind of been searching for like a friendship, family type of situation, and I have found it in many different groups and everything else, but for me, a sense of community that becomes like your family is super important to me. One of my love languages, my top love language, is quality time, and I think that kind of feeds into it as well. It's like I love being surrounded by people. I love pushing each other to do our best and feeding off of each other's like fire and stuff like that. And then inspire was my other word, because all I want to do is be able to inspire someone to do something incredible with their lives. Like I love to help build other people up. It's not so much about me. I mean, maybe it is in a sense, but like that's where my drive comes from.
That's great. And going back to that first point, like what I love about someone like yourself is that you didn't find one thing and just stick with it. You didn't find Pilates and think, this is the thing that I do and this is what I do.
Yeah.
It's like you took that and you said, well, now I'm going to explore this arena and I'm going to explore this arena. I'm going to put myself in all these different
I've tried
positions
everything.
and help everyone as much as I can in all these different spots, which is great.
Yeah. And she's a great compliment to my coaching style, because she is so, you do give compliments and you are so inspiring, where like, it's just my nature, guys. When somebody does something, I'm like, good job. That's like as high as I get. And it's honestly, it just comes from years of being the little guy in sports. I mean, like, it's like, well, you could always do better. You could always do better. So I'm glad I got Mia here, because she's just going to tell you, like, not to say I'm not going to give you a good job, but she is so inspiring. She's so awesome. She brings happy energy all the time. I'm the big grump over here.
Good cop, bad cop. Everybody needs it.
Exactly.
All right, guys, that was great. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for taking time. We appreciate it. Ty, where can people find you?
Ty Manzo, Instagram, shout out. And then upstairs in the loft, always, Sprint. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, guys, 9 a.m. Coming Sundays.
There you go. Mia, where can people find you? TikTok, right?
Oh God. Yeah, TikTok or Instagram is M and then my last name Parziale, which no one's gonna be able to spell. So
we gotta work on that. We gotta change.
Yeah. You can find me on the PHAROS Instagram.
What's and the TikTok handle's the same?
I honestly don't even
TikTok
know.
even
It could
work?
just be it could be that, or it's my first name and last name together. I don't even remember.
The kids out there know. They know how to find it.
Yeah, they
Someone
know.
knows.
They know.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming again. I appreciate it. Guys, we'll be back with you soon. I hope you're all well out there, and looking forward to connect with you shortly. Remember, we are at 1316 Glendale Boulevard in Echo Park. You can find us at PHAROS Echo Park on Instagram, or www.jointhepack.fit on the website. We are now open. Isn't that amazing thing to say? We are now open.
Wow.
You can come and do real gym things in a real gym environment with real people. It's amazing. So come down, check it out, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Peace out. Take care, guys.